Hey everyone, this is Stein, and this is the Intelligent Investor Chart of the Week on the Devryware YouTube channel. And what we do every week is we look at different fantasy football charts and talk about whether your favorite dynasty assets are buys, sells, or holds. And this week we're going to do something a little different. We're going to look at draft picks. And specifically, we're going to look at 2023 and 2024 first round draft picks and talk about why I think this offseason is the best time to buy 2025 first round draft picks. Let's get to work. Hey again. Welcome back. My process is about looking at KTC versus fantasy points per game. And what we're doing in this series, we're pulling up KTC charts, what happened in the past, and figuring out if those charts can tell us about what could happen in the future. And of course, KTC is KeepTradeCut. It's a Dynasty website where people go to the site and they're asked whether they want to keep, trade, or cut certain players or picks. And then they come up with an algorithm and they give values to each one of these players. And that's what we're analyzing here. And that's, if you think about the stock market, you're talking about dollars. KTC, for my purposes, I'm thinking about it as dollars, and I want to try and make you as many KTCs as possible. So let's take a look at the chart this week. Again, we're talking about first round picks here. A little explanation about what's going on here. The purple band, that is the fantasy football season. And then I got two blue bands. One's the draft and one's the combine. And then in the top right, you can see the different draft picks that I've charted out here for you. The blue lines, the solid line and the two dash lines, those are 2023 first, separated into early, mid, and late first. And those charts go from January of 2022 to the current day, all the way to February of this year of 2023. And the orange lines, those are 2024 picks. Again, those are early, mid, and late first round picks. And those start up in around March. Those are when those were added to the KeepTradeCut website. So that's as far back as I have that data for. And then the black line, that is a average of all of these picks combined into one line, all into one line. So I got some conclusions for you, but let's take a look at some of these lines and just talk about some of like the data behind the lines. So let's start with the 2023 early first. That started at 58.98 on January 5th of 2022. And it's currently trading at 58.15. So we lost about 83 points in KTC, but actually when you're thinking about KTC, that is not very much KTC. So I would call that an unchanged. And I actually think that now that we're going to go into combine and draft season, I think these lines are going to tick up. The other thing to think about here, as you see that line sort of tailing off at the end, is that KTC it started inputting the actual picks. So right now we have them in there as early, mid, and late for this chart. They have started putting them in there as 1.01, 1.02, 1.03. And that's how I think that some of the KeepTradeCut questions are coming up. And so it does make sense that it's tailing off a little bit as we get closer here. There's a little bit of a Bijan effect for the early first, where that early first kept getting driven up because it included the Bijan, but now that we're breaking them out into 1.01, 1.02, 1.03 for the early first, that Bijan, that 1.01 pick can skyrocket, and the other twos can tail off a little bit. So I think that's a little bit of what's going on here. So if you were to sort of find the lowest point and find the maximum point on this chart, the lowest point came on September 28th, 2022, and that was around 56.70. And the max point came on December 21st, 2022. And that was around 6,164. So the min max there is, if you were to like trade this perfectly from a KTC perspective, would have gotten you about 500 KTC points difference there between the two. And just to give you an idea of about what those KTC prices would be worth in today's dollars of KTC, that's about going from a Chris Olave to a Jalen Waddle from a KTC perspective, which is pretty interesting. If you were to, be perfect at timing the KTC buy and sell of the 2023 early first. I'm not going to talk about each one of these lines, but I'm going to talk about a few more. So the 2023 mid first, it started around 5,000 and it ended around 59.50. So the difference there, it actually lost about 50 KTC. Again, another unchanged. I expect this KTC line to head upwards as we go into the combine and the draft. Now, a min max on this one was again around 500 KTC, but the mins and the maxes, they actually happened at different times. In fact, this line, this is the blue larger dashed line. This line peaked at the combine of last year. So in 2022, the mid 2023 firsts were peaking at the combine of last year. That was when that line was the most expensive from a KTC perspective. So this trade is actually impossible to get a min max on just because of where the max happened and where the min happened. But the min happened in October. So if you were to just take today's prices of what KTC price those were for the min and max, the difference is between a Jameson Williams and a Drake London. Another interesting 500 differential there from a KTC perspective. Not one that you could have put to work, but just kind of interesting from that perspective. And now I'm going to shift from the 2023 first to the 2024 early first. So the 2024 early first, the first data point we have was from March 16th, and right around then, the KTC was around 48.70 KTC. And the highest point in this chart is actually the current day, right? The last day I grabbed data was February 15th. So that at that time, the KTC for this 2024 early first was around 54.50. So the difference there is 580 about KTC, just from start to finish. That's huge. You didn't have to min max. You didn't have to buy at the lowest point and buy it and sell at the highest point to get to this level, which is pretty interesting. Which is why one of my conclusions probably is going to be buy those picks that are 2 years out, because those are the ones that are gaining value, while those 2023 firsts are holding value. The 2 years out picks are the ones that are gaining value. So let's talk a little bit about that game. So, the 580 KTC just by holding it from start to finish, right? So what's the min and the max? The min happened in July 2027, 2022. And it happened around 4,600, not too far off when they first were entered into the KTC process in March. So just, not too different from that. It probably corresponds a lot to 2023 rookie drafts as a time when the 2024 firsts were at its lowest point. And the max, that ended up being January 25th. So they tailed off a little bit here at the end, but January 25th, actually, no, it's the current day. The current day's price is 55.15. So yeah, as you can see, that solid orange line, sort of as we get closer to the end, that's about where the max is. So the difference in terms of price, in terms of thinking about from a player's perspective, the minimum value on that 2020 early first was around a Treylon Burks in value, and the max was around a DK Metcalf in value. The difference there from the min, the max was about 900 KTC. That's actually a huge difference in KTC that you could make by trading and holding those picks from 2 years out. Now this black line, that's the average of all of these lines. It's nothing too surprising, giving you sort of all the data behind some of these other picks. But again, all these picks added together or averaged together, they really held their value. Most of the value was created by holding those 2024 picks through this time. And the min and the max for this line was the min was around 46.25 and the max was around 50.50 for around 525 KTC that you would make by trading at the min and the max. The difference there is basically Christian Watson on the min side to Stephon Diggs on the max side. So this is the kind of thing that we're talking about in terms of like holding value, keeping value picks. They are a great store of value, and I think that's proven out by these 2023 picks and seeing sort of how they've trended over the whole year, how they've sort of held value. There isn't some sort of bias attached to the names. They can't get injured, and they're generally good stores of value. Now, the best thing you could have done from a value perspective, though, is buy those picks 2 years out. And not all leagues have the ability to do that, right? So the league setup will matter a lot here. There's lots of things to consider in terms of, will this league be around for this long? Do you trust the people you're playing with? But if you are in a league where you can buy picks 2 years out, so this offseason that would be buying 25 first round picks, those seem to be the best value creators. The 2024 first round picks, they're probably peaking right around nowish, the combine, into the NFL draft, into maybe the early offseason. That's sort of where the peak is for those. So if you're buying 2024 picks, you're basically buying those to store value. But if you want to create value, create the KTC, you probably have to go out to those 2025 first round picks to get that value. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed. This was a little bit different from the past weeks where we focus on a particular player and we're just sort of looking at these picks. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any suggestions about who you should do next week or the week after, just let me know. Get in the comments. And please like, comment, and subscribe down below. And if you're not already a member of the Devi Royale Patreon, we'd love to have you come join up. It's really interesting, really fun, and you'll learn a lot by being a part of it. You can find me on Twitter at _Jason Stein. And the Intelligent Investor series is on the Dynasty Nerds. So go check it out. Let me know what questions you have. And thanks again so much for watching, and see you again next week.